This video is sponsored by War Thunder. Today we're going to talk about how Pepsi became a mighty military force for a brief duration in time, and what led to that. But first, we want to talk about another military-related thing, and that's War Thunder. You know we at the Infographics show love talking about military subjects, but what we love even more is playing military games. We were super excited when War Thunder offered us to promote their game, as it is literally a game that we've been playing already. War Thunder is a military vehicle combat online game that features more than 1,200 historically accurate playable tanks, aircrafts, helicopters, and ships from the 1920s all the way to the 1990s. The best part is the game is free to play on PCs, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. And there's also a cross-platform between PC and consoles. When you install the game, make sure you add us as a friend. We're playing as The Info Show. There's a free bonus for registering using our link in the description. Not only will you receive a premium tank or aircraft and 3 days of premium account time, you'll also support our channel at the same time. See you on the battlefield. Now, let's see what this Pepsi story is all about. We all know that feeling of anticipation as we reach for a cool blue can, as our fingers press down and the aluminum gives way to a frothy explosion on a liquid amber surface. Then pure satisfaction as the cold, sweet beverage slides across our tongue and down our throat, leaving the tingling bite of carbonation in its wake. Delicious, refreshing, power. Enjoyed by Americans since 1898, Pepsi, it turns out, is a favorite among the Russians as well. Find out just how badly Khrushchev wanted a sip in this episode of the Infographics show. How Pepsi became the 6th largest military in the world. While America of the 1800s was gulping down its Coke, pharmacist Caleb D. Bradham was watching, hoping to create a similar beverage of his own. He made a sweet carbonated drink in 1898 which he coined Pepsi Cola. It was met with great success, and by 1902 Pepsi Cola Company Incorporated was born. In the years that followed, it underwent several changes in ownership, a tweak in its formulation, and extensive advertising and promotion. By the 1950s, it had successfully become Coca-Cola's rival. The company would later merge with Frito-Lay Incorporated in the 60s, acquire the Tropicana and Dole brands in the 90s, and merge with Quaker Oats Company 2 years after that. Today, PepsiCo's most successful brands include much more than Pepsi Cola. It profits from Frito-Lay snacks, Lipton teas, Tropicana juices, Gatorade drinks, Quaker Oats cereals, and rolled gold pretzels as well. A pharmacist from North Carolina's dream from over a century ago has turned into a reality. His company, with its humble beginnings, has reached a level of success that he likely never believed possible. It even snagged a spot on the 2018 Forbes' World's Most Valuable Brands list. At number 29, Pepsi has an estimated worth of $18.4 billion. Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, and Pepsi Max alone each bring in over $1 billion in profits annually. Second only to Coca-Cola, Pepsi is among America's top soda of choice. In Russia, Pepsi is second to none. In fact, while the brand's history is without a doubt impressive, it's its relationship with Russia that has allowed it to achieve what no soda company had ever achieved before. For a time, Russia made Pepsi a top military power, with an arsenal greater than that of most countries worldwide. But just how did a soda company manage that? It all started during the height of the Cold War, when President Dwight Eisenhower and Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev came to an agreement. The USSR wanted to open trade with the US, and the US wanted to promote capitalism in the USSR, so they agreed to a form of cultural exchange. Each would design an exhibition highlighting the achievements of their country for display in the others. The Soviet exhibition portrayed its achievements in areas in which it was superior, namely in space, and it opened in New York City in June of 1959. America included examples from its own culture in which it was paving the way, such as appliances of various sorts and soda. The American National Exhibition opened in Moscow in July of that same year, and the United States sent Vice President Richard Nixon as its host. However, the Moscow-based event got off to a rather rocky start. Khrushchev was unimpressed with color TV. In fact, he was unimpressed with most everything on display, claiming that Russia would have the same technology itself in a matter of years. Further, he took advantage of the opportunity to talk shop, commenting angrily on the US government's resolution against his presence in Eastern Europe. And if that wasn't enough, he gave his opinion that Nixon only feared communism because he couldn't understand it. Nixon had a ready response. At some point, as they argued, Khrushchev wiped his brow, and this is when Donald Kendall saw his chance. The Pepsi representative gave Khrushchev a cool, refreshing drink. While the Soviet leader found the American exhibit lacking and the United States government meddlesome and uninformed, he could find no fault with the contents of his cup. And just like that, Pepsi Cola became the first capitalist product to be sold in the USSR. Pepsi was not the only one to find opportunity that day. The press was handed a front-page story as well. Pictures of the two leaders as they argued beside a kitchen were soon published across America. The exchange itself was given a rather catchy and fitting title of The Kitchen Debate. Due to the publicity of the event, Nixon enjoyed benefits of his own. Photos with him thrusting a finger at Khrushchev were thought to demonstrate leadership and some believe helped him in his future bid for the presidency. But between the soda company, the press, and the vice president, Pepsi's success following America's exhibition in Moscow was inarguably the greatest and longest lasting. Now, the arrangements to sell Pepsi in Russia were not made without a few glitches here and there. Though the Russians wanted permanent access to the drink, there was the somewhat significant problem of its payment. Russian currency was not universally accepted, and so they needed to make an alternative arrangement. They turned to their other beverage of choice as a solution. The Russians gave PepsiCo the exclusive distribution rights for their Stolichnaya vodka. In turn, Pepsi became the only soda that could be legally sold to the Soviet population. This worked out well until the 1980s when vodka was no longer high enough in value to cover the costs of Soviet's Pepsi. So Russia proposed a different type of exchange and traded Pepsi some boats and submarines instead, $3 billion worth. For the price of 17 submarines and a cruiser, frigate, and destroyer, the Russian population could continue to enjoy its soda. As for Pepsi, it had just become the sixth most powerful military worldwide. This is a distinction not shared by any other beverage-making companies either before or after this remarkable event, as far as we're aware. However, as their specialty is drinks and snacks and not maintaining a maritime fleet, Pepsi eventually sold a lot for reuse of its materials. Mr. Kendall, who had made history that day by giving Khrushchev some happiness in a cup, later joked that his company was better at disarming the Soviet Union than our government. However, Coca-Cola was less than amused. Cut out of the Soviet market due to the exclusive agreement between Russia's government and PepsiCo representatives, the competing brand was only allowed to sell its Fanta and Minute Maid products instead. They were far from the only ones upset about the arrangement. Other skeptics to the deal suggested that Pepsi purchases funded the manufacturing of Russian nuclear missiles. One could only hope that if this were true, the joy the beverage gave both the Russian population and its leadership made it less likely that they would be tempted to use them. Did this story make you wish you tried out some of those military vehicles that Russia owned during those times? Don't forget that you can play online against 20 million other players using 1,200 tanks, aircraft, helicopters, and ships. Join us playing War Thunder. It's free after all. Just click our link in the description and play the game on either a PC, PS4, or an Xbox One.